Hello, friends. Welcome to my first ever interview come podcast. As you know, on this YouTube channel, I have been uploading videos related to children, their education, parenting, homeschooling, and teaching. And I'm so grateful to you guys that you have watched my videos, you like them, share them, and you have subscribed to the channel. Based on your support and encouragement, I'm taking a next step and I'm planning to add different kind of, or you can say new kind of content to this channel. So most of the parents will agree that when we become new parents, we have so many questions, we have so many doubts. For example, what is the best way to raise our child? Or what we can do so that our child is confident and becomes successful in his or her life. So what I'm planning to do is, I'm planning to invite guests from different fields. They will be expert in their field. Invite them, talk to them about parenting, teaching, and child development, and share that with you. And in case you have any questions, any suggestions related to the videos or suggestions related to the topics, or you want to suggest a guest, so please do write in the comment section. And to start with this series, today I have invited Charlotte William, who has been in the field of education for almost a decade. And she studied psychology for 7 years, holds her master's degree in counseling psychology. Charlotte started her career in Middle East as a school counselor. Then later she moved to India and worked in different schools, where she went on to become the head of learning support and special needs consultant in reputed international schools. So Charlotte has a vast experience of working in CBSE, ICSE, IB, and Cambridge schools, and she has been a keynote speaker in many educational forums. So today we have Charlotte with us. So let's talk to her. Welcome, Charlotte. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you, Preeti.
Great. Thank you so much for taking out the time. So my first question to you is, as a parent, we all want to give the best of everything to our kids, and in that process the first thing is right kind of parenting. And these days we get so many advice or so many suggestions from our elders, our friends, family, and relatives, and then a new addition which is online social media. And most of the time it becomes overwhelming for new parents. So in this situation, as a counselor, what do you say? What new parents should do when they are bombarded with so many suggestions and advice related to parenting?
Right, Preeti. I think it's interesting, right? While we're talking about all of this, we're using social media again to talk about
Yeah.
what could be ideal for parenting. But yeah, like you said, I think there are so many sources of information. One being family. Uh, and I think starting with our own parents, as a new parent, when you listen to your parents, and then you have your relatives and experienced people. And then, of course, we have many influencers now in the game, right?
Right.
It definitely becomes very, very challenging. I think starting from the phase of being a new parent, because it all starts from there, right? So the moment you've been, I think it's phase of bombardment initially, because any parent, you get overwhelmed because, like you said, you want to do the best for your child, and the intentions are right, and everybody who's trying to help you are also doing it with the best of intentions. So there is a very tricky phase that a new parent goes through right at the start, and then as your child grows up, I think this just keeps increasing. But I think having to answer that, it goes inwards, in the sense, end of the day, you need to make those choices for yourself, because are we all do have that instinct, right? And we all do have that gut feeling, and there's no other better person than being your, like, as a parent, I think you're the best person to make that judgment. It's important, I think, to look around you, learn from people around you, absorb new information. It's good. I mean, knowledge is always good, right? And I don't think there's anything like too much knowledge, because I think it helps you make that decision even more better. So while it's important to, listen to, you know, family and different sources of information, I think the kind of filtering that you need is based on your own judgment. And so I think it's most important for you to focus on how you can strengthen that decision making of yours. It's very, very hard, because um, at this point of time of being a parent, amygdala in your brain is constantly, sort of getting activated with emotions, right? And is playing a huge part in the process of parenting. So it's important to take everything with a pinch of salt. I would say that because end of the day, your child is going to experience parenting from you. It's not
Right.
what we're going to pass on the baton to other people, right? They might tell you, they
Right.
might influence you, but then I think the control is with you. I think that's something that we need to constantly remind ourselves. There's a huge difference between getting influence versus having the control. So I think, and I don't mean control in the wrong sense, but owning parenting is a huge thing. So, and I think also telling yourself that it's okay to go wrong, because while we get all this information, we're trying and testing, and it's all part of learning for us. So telling ourselves that while we are parents, we're also learners in the process. So it's all right, it's absolutely fine to go wrong. I mean, how wrong can you be, right, as a parent? It's You're always learning. So I think that's very, very essential.
Yes, that's a very good point, Charlotte, that we should listen to everything. Parents should listen to everything and then decide what is best for their child, what suits them and their child. But sometimes what happens, even some family members and elders will say that you should do like this. This is how it has to be done. We also have raised kids. This is nothing new for us, not realizing that times have changed, and so the parenting also has to change. And in these situation, new parents feel extra pressure on them. So how to handle that pressure and judgment?
Preeti, while you were saying that, right, that's so true because we're talking about different generations, right?
Right.
And while we're having a forum here to speak about parenting. Now, if we look at our own upbringing, right, and say, for example, we've been told things by our own parents and things like that. Now, when they speak about what they did, it's what they did for us. Now we
Right.
know to what extent it has impacted us. And I'm not here being a judge to say that what went wrong. I mean, that's not the idea. But we also know the elements that probably could have been there and the elements that have led to positive upbringing and things like that. The idea, I'm not saying to look at it through a lens of judging, but it's important for us to be mindful of the changing times, like you said, right? Like we're comparing to the previous generation and probably generations above, right? It's important to keep abreast with the changing times, and the needs of your child is not going to be the same as of now. So are we preparing them
Right.
for the future world? I think that's what's most important. So if I'm going to be doing things that my parents did for me, I don't know if I'm getting my child ready for the future world. I think that's the bigger question. So always have that at the back of your head.
Nice. So the role of others should be to support the parents without judging them, without putting any pressure. So my next question to you is, what is the role of environment in child's development? And when I'm talking about environment, I mean home, neighborhood, school, and any social circle they are coming in contact with. So how does that affect child's development?
Yeah. So, if you do look at the theories of early childhood, right, there are so many theories, and one of it is definitely how they look at environment. And environment is known as the third teacher, and that's for a huge reason.
Mhm.
Um, so, environment not only influences the here and now, the current, but it shapes the future. So, what do we mean by that? Like the examples that you said, the neighborhood, the family, it's the exposure, right? Look, so what was around us in our closest environment is what we're actually constantly absorbing. Stimulation is happening from this environment. So, what people tell me, um, what is it that I start beginning to believe in? All of that shapes us. And it's not just, it's that identity that we're constantly nurturing through this environment. So, it's a huge, huge, huge role that it's actually playing. And to answer to what extent, um, well, we were just talking about how the world is changing, right? And
Yeah.
likewise, the environment around us is also not stagnant. I mean, it's
Right.
constantly changing for the better or the worse, right? There are different factors influencing us. So it's important to stay attuned to it, and that it goes back to the role of parenting again. What are we doing to provide for our children? And how are we, kind of intentionally planning this environment? How am I making sure that my child is surrounded by positivity? How am I making sure my child is surrounded by factors that are influencing her, constructively? So all of those is really important, and yeah, like you rightly mentioned, there are so many elements that goes into. Constantly keep talking about environment, but then I think there are so many elements, and we can talk about it on and on because environment plays that much of a role. So when people talk about parenting, it's hard. It's a hard game, right? How much control can the parents have on environment, and that's where the role of the parents get enhanced all the more, in the sense I need to make that call. If this is not a suitable environment for my child, then I need to take a call and see how best can I bring in those elements that are actually nurturing my child's identity. So that's something that we need to have constantly playing at the back of our head and being mindful about.
Yes, and also, Charlotte, when we talk about environment, when the child is 0 to 3 years, which are called the formative years, he spends most of the time at home with the family where he has parents and grandparents who are the main caregivers. So, what kind of environment they can create at home for child's happy and positive development?
Yeah, I think one major thing is messaging. Um, the messaging that we give in the environment, making sure
Mhm.
that everybody in the environment is kind of talking about the same stuff. I wouldn't say, see, first of all, there could be differences with between the father and the mother. As much as we
Mhm.
all want both the parents to talk the same and be the same, there are obvious changes that the child is going to notice and the child is going to respond to. For example, now, during those formative years, by the age of 3 and things like that, when they start, communicating a little more better,
Right,
they know whom to go to. They make that
right.
call. Decision making is happening right there. If I want a toy, I know whom to go to because I know where I'm going to hear a yes from. So I wouldn't say that everything needs to sink in. There would be differences for sure. But I think
Mhm.
the basis of everything, the foundation of everything should be catering to the emotional needs of the child. Um, and there's a stark difference between wants and needs. And I think that's what's most important when you look at environment. Um, is the environment catering to the needs of my child and not the wants of my child? When I
Uh-huh.
talk about needs, I'm talking about the social needs, the cognitive needs, the emotional needs, right? We're looking at the holistic picture and not just about, okay, is my child happy? Right? What does happiness
Right.
mean? Giving everything for my child? Not necessarily. As a caregiver, and that's a tricky word in itself, right? I'm giving care, but how, in what sense are we looking at care? Is it
Mhm.
just about making my child happy through materialistic, you know, needs in terms of providing for my child? It's not just about providing, giving. It's also about absorbing. It's also about taking back. Because if I'm not able to absorb, the kind of relationship my child wants to have with me and then mirror the same, it's just looked at as a one-way direction, right? It's important to pause, listen. I think those elements play a huge role here, right? It's not just that one way traffic where all the emphasis is about the parent. It's
Mhm.
about looking at your child and seeing what is working and how do you get to know this, right? Looking at your environment and seeing that these are the things that I've done for my child. Is it working? Is it not? How is my child responding to these things? It's important to pause and reflect constantly and looking at what's working, what's not, changing things. Not There's no one size fits all approach again, right? We were
Right.
talking about how previous generations talk about certain things. It may not work. If it's already working, great, lucky you. But then
Mhm.
also being open minded to how can we tweak that, right? If it's not working, I have to be open to do something else. Now, I can't pause my parenting and saying, okay, let me look at what can I do. I have to be, it's on the go. It has to come in more naturally. So the first thing is acceptance, like I said earlier as well. Accepting that it's okay to make mistakes. If it's not working, then it's fine. It's completely fine. So I think, yeah, all of this goes into the environment. Those social elements, the emotional bits, listening to your child, messaging, like I said. It's important because if I'm as a parent giving away a certain message, it's important for
Mhm.
the others to also let the child know that we are in support of this kind of parenting,
Right.
right? It's great to have grandparents around. I think that's in today's world. There's not enough support that one can ever get. You need a lot of support. And me being a
Right.
new parent myself, I can just go on about this. You just need a lot of support. But then I think what's essential is also making sure that at the end of the day, as a parent, you need to take accountability. You need to take ownership. You need to build that relationship with your child. You need to look at the environment and say, um, what is it that's happening in this? Can I do something about this environment? Can I change? So the control needs to be with me. I mean,
Right.
that's the end thing, right?
Right. So to summarize that, I think we can say that both the parents and other family members should be on the same page. It shouldn't be the case that if one person says no to one thing and child goes to other person and the other person says yes to the same thing, because children will start picking up on all these things at a very early age, and in no time they'll figure out to whom they have to approach for certain things. So thank you so much, Charlotte, for explaining so well. And this was our part one. Hope this video could answer some of your questions. And if as a parent or as a caregiver, you could relate to anything in this video, please do write in the comment section. And stay tuned for the part two. See you.